an account is simply something that the business wants to track. Again, we talked about they might want to track cash or track how much work they've done for a customer or how much they've spent on advertising. And the chart of accounts or list of things that a business is tracking is unique to each business because no owner is the same and they might want to track different things. And the names that they use for the accounts also might be different. For example, one business wants to track what they're paying their employees, and so they call it employee expense. Another business might call it wages expense, and another one might call it salaries expense. They're all really tracking the same thing. The name is not really that important. However, what is important is how we classify those accounts. There are 5 basic account types. They are assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenses. Now, technically speaking, revenues and expenses are part of equity, but I like separating them out and talking about them separately because they have some unique characteristics. All right, so we're not going to do a very technical definition right now. We're just going to do a definition for each of these account types that will get us through until we need to know the very technical definition. Assets are things that we own. Often these are physical assets. For example, you own a truck, you own a laptop, you own your cash, you own an investment. Or they might not be physical. A common example of an asset that a business has is accounts receivable. You own the right to collect money from somebody else. Liabilities are things that you owe. So often, this is cash that you owe to somebody else that you haven't paid back yet. It might be a bank loan. It might be things that you owe your suppliers. It might be bills. For example, utility bill. You might owe your employees. If you haven't paid them yet, you owe them money. So these are all things that we owe. I'll come back to equity. Revenues is work that we have done. And we often use the word earned when we are describing revenues. How much have we earned? Now, this does not necessarily mean we have gotten paid, right? We have earned the money, and it doesn't matter if we've been paid yet or not, we have revenue. So it simply tracks how much sheer work have we done. We might be paid now, we might be paid later, it still is a revenue. Expenses are resources we have used. Often that is cash. So resource we have used up, often it's cash, right? You buy advertising or you pay your employees. So often that is recorded as an expense when you go spend some cash, but not necessarily. So there are other things that we can use up. So for example, we buy a truck and we put gas in the truck. Now, we haven't actually used up that gas yet. So as we use up the gas, that's an expense. Or other supplies that we have used up. We use up our employees' time. So whenever we use up something in our business, that's an expense. If we haven't used it up yet, for example, we buy a truck, we haven't used up the truck is an asset. As we use up the truck or use up the gas in the truck or use up something else, that's an expense. All right, so assets, things we own. Liabilities, things we owe. Revenues, work we have done or what we have earned. Expenses, resources, often cash, but not necessarily. Resources we have used up. Now let's go back to equity. Again, I said technically speaking, revenues and expenses are part of equity, but equity is the part that the owner owns of the business. And this is, you can think of, for example, your car or a house. When you buy a house, you often have a mortgage on the house, or if you buy a car, you might have a loan on the car. So, for example, if the home is worth $200,000 and the mortgage is $125,000 on it, if you sold the house, how much would you as the owner get to keep? Well, you sold it for $200,000. You pay off the $125,000 liability or the mortgage on it. What do you have left? You have $75,000 left. That is equity. It's how much does the owner own? Or you can also look at it, if you sold all of your assets, paid off all of your debts, what would the owner have left? So that's one way of looking at it. In equity, at least the way I teach it, since I'm breaking out revenues and expenses separately, and I usually talk about them separately, equity only has two accounts in it. There's capital and drawings. Now, for now, we'll just say capital is the investment that the owner puts into the business. For example, when you are starting a business, you might put cash into the business. Put $10,000 cash into the business. Now, once in a while, the owner might want to take money out of the business so that they can pay for their groceries, for their home mortgage, for their car, whatever it is that the owner needs the money for. That's drawings. Now, the business itself, they don't care. The business doesn't care what the owner is using the money for. The business just knows that the owner has taken money out. So for equity, it's capital is if the owner is putting money in the business, and drawings if the owner is taking money out of the business. All right, so these are the 5 basic account types. We started out this video talking about accounts, and we don't care what we name the account. What we do care about is that we put it in the right category. So we have to make sure we know if it's an asset, liability, equity, revenue, expense. So that's the important part. The important part is knowing where it belongs in this rather than what it actually is named.